Hello and welcome. Today we're in the Tier 6 Japanese Battlecarrier, the Ise. The ship was given to me by Wargaming. So, the Ise is the coolest concept when it comes to ships. This is literally the coolest thing I can imagine. You have a carrier that's a battleship at the same time. A carrier that goes into battle. This is so cool. It's also completely nonsensical when you think of the real world, because carriers want to be far from the battle, battleships want to be close to the battle. Putting them together is extremely stupid, but it's so cool. Anyway, this is basically a Fuso that has a flight deck instead of two turrets. That's it. She launches torpedo bombers, which are pretty cool. And I mean, you fly around them with like torpedo bombers as a CV. You fire your guns at the target, which you have 8 of them, they're the same as the Fusos, and then you launch your torpedo bombers with a special boost, which allows you to actually boost faster at the start of the run. Look at that, 210 knots, but it's only at the start. Then once your boosts run out, it drops down to 120 knots, but still, it's cool. It encourages you to fight close-range targets. You can still control your ship with autopilot, just like you can with a carrier. And then you go find yourself a target, and you drop 2 torpedoes per torpedo bomber. They're fairly tanky. They're not the greatest though. You don't have like a heal or anything like that. And you don't have all the boosts that CV planes do, but still, you can use them rather well. And you can combine it with your actual shots, as you saw in the opening clip against that destroyer. Sadly, it actually takes quite a bit of skill to use that properly. You have to make sure that your guns are pointed in the right direction, that the firing angles are correct, etc. And speaking of firing angles, I'd like to point out that one of the weaknesses of this ship is the rear firing angles. Firing behind you is basically only using your front turrets, because right now my rear turrets are not angled, or my ship is too angled to be able to fire my rear turrets. My ship is still too angled to fire my rear turrets. Well, now only the furthest back turret can't fire. But you have to basically be completely broadside on to fire the back turrets. The front ones work fine. The back turrets have though awful angles when you're sailing away. If you're sailing closer to the target, they're absolutely fine. Well, it could obviously be better, but they're completely fine normally. You feel like a regular battleship, but if you're sailing away, you can basically only use your front guns when you're firing behind you. I know, it's a bit ironic, but that's just how it is. Okay, next target, the Pensacola. So because this is basically a Fuso, you have the same guns, same AP penetration, etc., except you have 2.0 Sigma. I fire mostly HE, because the AP is not the greatest, it's 356. Against the Pensacola, for example, I cannot overmatch the bow. I have to hit the Citadel I have to hit her side, but obviously Pensacola isn't likely to show it to me, so I might as well just spam HE. Not to mention that even if I fire AP, maybe I'll just overpen when I do get her side. But the torpedo bombers though, well, they work pretty well, huh, in these situations. And this is why I say that the ship can be very skillful, because there's so much you could potentially do with this kind of a setup. It's actually crazy. Oh, we knocked out her engine, so she's definitely damage control partying this one. We're gonna border scrape her a little bit, because we want to point all of our guns at the Pensacola until, well, she goes down. And she will, because we have a Bayan on one side, an Ise on the other side, a Nürnberg behind us. Yeah, she's just gonna go down here soon. She started a fire, but it's pretty much irrelevant. And we knocked out her engine again. I'm sorry, Pensacola. Oh, and one more thing. This ship has incredible anti-air for a tier 6 ship. I'm not even sure if CVs have better anti-air than this ship at tier 6. I'm starting to turn my turrets, but actually might not be the greatest idea, because we're gonna fight the ships in the middle. The voiceover, as you've heard, is the lovely Fubuki Shirakami. Some of you will know what the name means. If you don't, just YouTube it. So, in this kind of a situation, I'm obviously just gonna take the sea cap. The only ships close are the Bayan, and she is probably not gonna turn around to go back again. So it'll fall onto me and perhaps the Nürnberg. Since this is Fuso, the shells, especially the HE shells, are fairly slow, which is understandable at long range, but she at least has the range. So if you are in a tier 8 battle, you can just sit back and, well, shell from afar if you need to. You might not, but you can at least do that. But because the ship is tier 6, my experience with her hasn't been the greatest, and it's not because of the ship, it's because tier 6 just... I don't know what it is, but pretty much every game I've played at tier 6 when playing the ship has been a landslide. Either it's my team that's winning super hard or it's the enemy team. It's much worse than it is at higher tiers, I find, in this sense. The other point is that players just... I don't know what they do. I mean, look at our position right now. We're on the map border. We're about almost the furthest ship from the enemy team, from the other side of the map, right? Yeah, keep this in mind for a little bit. You'll see later what I mean. I'm just gonna keep pushing. So the good thing is that the firing angles when you're going closer are really good, or at least good enough. So you can go closer. At least they've done that part well. It would have been way worse if going closer required you to not fire your rear turrets, which I find good. So you're encouraged to push with this ship. And the abilities or the opportunities that the planes give you when you're pushing are actually pretty damn good. Also, here I don't launch my planes for a little bit because I literally forget they exist. When I was actually playing at one point I thought, wait, oh right, I have planes, why am I not using them? Also, I've had quite a lot of trouble actually having great matches, or high damage matches, because, well, the games just end too quickly. It's either my team winning super quick or the enemy team winning super quick, or I'll just get focused down super hard. Luckily though, a tier 6 CV isn't the greatest threat for me. She'll get the drop on me, the Vesa, although if you take 4000 damage from a flak bubble, maybe not. Yeah, no. Oh no, actually one plane did drop, and it actually did citadel me for 7000 damage, but that was the entire flight lost. So the anti-air is pretty good, which you would expect from a battle carrier, right? Because it's a carrier, and it can do cool things. Let's launch the planes and go find ourselves something nice to strike. I think I'm gonna go for the Graf Spee. I could potentially go finish off the Nürnberg, but I don't know if I want to. Maybe somebody else will, and it's a Nürnberg. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, right? Somebody just sneezes at her and she just goes down. Instead, I think the Graf Spee that's gonna make contact with my allies is more important. Because if my allies actually push, it'll be good for me. In terms of cap points, we're behind, but that's alright, because again, we're pushing. So the ship is fun. I'm not sure how many tier 6 players will actually take fully advantage of the ship, but it's fun. And so far I've definitely enjoyed it. If we had the ship at higher tiers, or this kind of a ship at higher tiers, I think it might actually be even better, because, well, people are more likely to take advantage of the spotting that the ship gives you. Okay, so one torpedo dropped into the water, it actually hit me, the other one missed. That's fine. Not that big of a deal. Oh, a Trento! I can't fire at her, the island is gonna be in the way. I mean, the plane actually cools down pretty quickly, so you can use quite a lot. Oh, there's the Nürnberg, so let's finish her off, I suppose. Because of the way we're angled, and since we want to enter the B cap, I'll only use my front turrets. And the rear turrets will... I don't know, maybe we can hit the Trento, maybe not. Oh, come on! Seriously? I should have fired AP. Damn it! 941 damage. I mean, AP would have only done slightly more, but maybe it wouldn't have overpinned. It's possible. Anyway, I think the Fuso is gonna push here. Oh, and my plane is up. I think I might just launch the plane after I take my next shot. Or, I guess, I decided to launch it immediately for some reason. The Ranger did drop on her. The angle of attack here isn't gonna be the greatest, I think. The island is gonna be... Yeah, this is a bad attack. Really bad attack, but I'm already committed, so whatever. Whatever happens, happens. Okay, Nunbag, with your 1500 HP. I mean, we hit 2 torps, so that's pretty good. Although, you do have to remember that these torpedoes have 2700 base damage, so not the greatest amount of damage. But damage is still damage. Luckily, the Fusa isn't looking at me. Oh, I got a fire. I think one on the Fusa and one on the Nunbag. Right? Has to be. Because then Fusa only has 1 fire. Okay, the focus is gonna be on the Fusa, I think. But now, this is where the weakness of the rear firing angles comes in. Oh, come on! Never mind, forget the Fusa. 122 HP. Are you serious? What the hell? How is he not dead? Oh my god, this is horrible. I also need to actually kite away, because there's a lot of enemy ships here. Oh no, and I missed everything! I can't believe he's still alive. Also, remember when I said that I was basically the furthest ship from the enemy team? Look at the minimap. This stuff just keeps happening at tier 6 for me. I don't understand how. I was behind all of them, and somehow now I am like 8 kilometers in front of all of them. My ship only goes like 25 knots at top speed. I don't understand. But whatever. I'm still gonna have to kite away because that New Mexico has a lot of HP and that Nürnberg is still not dead. Oh, and the CV also keeps attacking me. Oh, and there's a Trenta right behind the island here. Which means that she has torpedoes that I have to worry about. I'll just have to turn away and only use my front guns while I'm... Who are we kidding? It's never gonna happen. I'm never gonna play this correctly. Hey, Trento! How are you doing? Would you like some torpedoes from my planes? God, I love these close-range torpedoings. It's just so cool. I don't know why. I mean, I'm literally 3 kilometers from the ship. Oh god, that was such a bad salvo. I should have tried to aim for the actual stern of the ship, not the main belt. Imagine if I could fire my rear turrets right now. Would be pretty cool, huh? I'm gonna have to use the heal. Kiting away is actually gonna be good, but again, I can only use half my firepower, which is already 2/3 of the Fusa's firepower, so technically we only have access to 1/3 of the firepower the Fusa does in this situation. As a Fusa, I wouldn't actually be all that scared against the New Mexico in this situation. Since we're already in a full turn, I guess we'll just keep turning now. Yeah, taking that shot on the Trenta was a mistake. I'm gonna eat the torpedo from the Vesa. Oh no, and the New Mexico also fired. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna eat that torp. Oh no! Oh, I should have slowed down. If I had slowed down, I would have avoided the front torp. Wait, is the Trenta... Oh, the Trenta's reversing! Oh! Hello, Trenta. How are you doing? I think that's goodbye. Actually, 7k HP. No, it's goodbye. Oh, a Citadel hit. Nice! Nice. So the other reason I fire HE so much is because it actually synergizes with the torpedoes. Although I literally have 0 floodings, it's possible for them to get floodings. Anyway, I have 3000 HP. I am 5 kilometers from the New Mexico. I'm just gonna slow down, and the moment I can launch the planes, I'm gonna launch them. Because that's probably the last thing I'm gonna be able to do. And we're gonna drop on the New Mexico. Yep, I'm on fire, so I'm completely dead, for sure. There's no chance there. Oh, hey expert. But so is the Fusa. Fusa is so dead. I guess we can just watch the torps this time. Oh, come on, it jumped back automatically. Well, anyway. Here's the 8 torpedoes. By the way, I'd like to point out that the New Mexico had like 3,000 or 4,000 HP and it took 5 torpedoes to actually finish her off. The torpedoes look a lot scarier than they actually are. Also, look at where my ship went down, and look at where my allies are. How are you so far behind? Especially because most of these ships are faster than mine. I don't understand how this keeps happening at tier 6. Anyway, it was a pretty good game. They're gonna finish off the Vesa, so you know roughly what's gonna happen here, right? They'll take an eternity to get close to the Vesa and then maybe finish her off. Yeah, never mind. She's definitely gonna be finished off. It's gonna take like one more salvo. Okay, one. Oh, and it's the CV that actually finishes her. Well, that's pretty good then. Well done by the Ranger for ranging very well. Hello, end screen. Would you like to show up sometime? I don't know what it is. It's been like a week now where the EU server just doesn't show any end screens. You just end up stuck on the last frame and then it kicks you into port. Just like this. Anyway. Let's take a look at the end results. 118,000 damage. 35 planes shot down. 4 ships sunk. I kept the base. AA defense expert, Confederate, and it's just a flesh wound. I think this ship is gonna get a lot of it's just a flesh wounds because you can just launch your planes right before you go down, and then you can maybe get lucky. But 35 planes is pretty impressive. That CV really had it out for me. 2131 base XP. Hell! That Ismail had an amazing game. 1950 base XP in a tier 6 game is impressive. 2100 is even more impressive. It's actually kinda crazy, because lower tier ships get less experience, right? So getting 2100 XP in a tier 10 match is a good result. In tier 6, it's amazing. In fact, our team actually got a ridiculous amount of XP. Most of the games I played were like 1500 base XP on wins. Also, the damage, this is something you'll be interested in. So 14 torpedo hits, that looks like a lot, but it's only 25k damage, and no floodings, by the way, no floodings. The HE spam did 24k damage. Maybe spamming HE isn't actually as great of an idea, but the AP does deal a lot more damage per shell, as you can see, like 27k for 14 shells, whereas the HE only did 64k for 40 shells, but keep in mind that they only basically fired AP when it was broadside on. So I'm not entirely sure. I guess just going AP would be fine too. It depends on how you end up playing it. Took a lot of damage from a lot of various ships and planes apparently. But that's kinda the nature of the beast in a ship like this, especially at tier 6. When you end up so far ahead of your team as I did, somehow magically, I don't know how, but I did, well, ships are gonna shoot at you, and this ship is actually pretty damn good to be in. It's well armored, especially for a tier 6. Oh, by the way, you know the 35 planes that shot down? They're all attack planes, right? You know, usually when you get high amount of planes shot down, there's like half of them are usually fighters. Well, in this case, none of them are fighters. They're all attack planes. Anyway, let's take a look at the commander skills first. So I'm using the same captain I use on my other battleships, because with the new captain skills, well, you don't have any plane skills. So I go for emergency repair specialist, grease the gears, adrenaline rush, emergency repair expert, concealment expert, basics of survivability, and fire prevention expert. In this exact order. So if you don't have 21 points, you don't take fire prevention. Because it just doesn't make as much sense to me. And I don't know, what else would you even take on a ship like this? Well, it's a premium ship, so obviously you're gonna share the captain with other battleships, but if you had a dedicated captain, what would you possibly even take? Expert AA marksman, maybe? Because the anti-air on the ship is good, so if you boost it, it'll be even more impressive. Look at this. 165 long-range AA damage at 5.8 kilometers. Most high-tier ships don't have this kind of AA at that kind of range, I think. I'm pretty sure it's lower usually. The other thing is 6 flak bubbles. For a tier 6 ship, for a battleship no less, that's impressive. Like, truly impressive. And if you take this, you could get an extra one. For 7, that is an amount which makes most CV players go, no, I really don't want to attack that guy unless I have to. because you'll have to dodge flak. Upgrades wise, I'm doing slightly differently. Usually when I have basic survivability I take propulsion mode, but this time I'm going for damage control. Because when you're flying those planes, you can't use damage control party yourself, right? And because of that, I think this damage control mitigates some of the fire damage you're gonna take from that. Then I use aiming systems. The other choice you could go for, I guess, would be turret reverse here, but the other stuff doesn't make any sense. I don't think you're gonna ever really heavily rely on the main guns. I mean, that's gonna be your main source of damage, but I'd say the planes are gonna be like a third to a quarter of the damage usually too. At least that's in my experience, because again, you can't kite away with these guns, and as a result, guns aren't the greatest, especially at close range fights. Then I go damage control and main arts modification 1 as well. So, a quick look at the armor now. It's basically the same as you would expect from a Fuso. The armor is slightly different. The bow is 26, the flight deck is also 26 by the way. But the Citadel is well protected. It also has a massive torp belt, by the way. Look at that, 32. That entire thing is the torp belt. With a 26% torp, maybe this enhanced anti-torpedo protection skill would actually be useful here. Because this is a massive torp belt for the size of the ship. Yeah, that's actually something to consider, I suppose. Because this is truly a massive torp belt. Anyway, this is the Citadel. It sits slightly higher than the Fusos. Not quite the waterline as Fusos, but it has these weird armor plates that are fairly thick for a tier 6 battleship. And I mean, you also have the main belt itself on top of this, which is 299mm. Not quite as thick as the Fusos, I think. But it's almost the same. Yeah, look at that. You have to go through that. And then there's a very slight turtleback as well. And then the Citadel protection itself. It's thick for a tier 6 ship. It truly is thick for a tier 6 ship. And yeah, the armor scheme is good. The armor scheme truly is good. And just as a comparison to the Fuso, to look at Citadel, sits lower in the water, and it's actually 305, so 6mm thicker. And I mean, this is definitely better, but this ship doesn't have planes, so obviously not the same thing, right? Obviously not. Oh, and it doesn't have anti-air. Overall, it's a really cool ship, conceptually and in gameplay. She can do things that no other ship can do, but she introduces CV mechanics without involving a CV. Plane spotting might end up being too good. At the same time though, without a massive benefit like the planes, a Fuso would just be the superior choice over the Ise. I think we'll have to see how this one goes in the long term. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.